Sometimes it can feel a tiny bit lonely in your survival world. Sometimes it can feel like you're the only player, the only human being out of every single entity, mob and enemy in your world. So it can be quite refreshing to see a build that has a storyline. It can be really nice because it just stands out amongst every single build you see. So how do you add that lore? How do you make a build feel lived in? How do you make all of those towns, cities and villages feel like people are just going about their days in them? Well, in today's episode of Building Tips and Tricks, I'm going to be focusing just on that. So let's get right into it. Now, in your world, things aren't going to go perfectly. In fact, there are going to be natural disasters, there are going to be failed harvests, all kinds of things around your world. So why not add that? Every once in a while, maybe have a civilization where the harvest hasn't gone so well. Particularly in poorer areas, you could have floods that have decimated the farmland. For example, over here, we've got water filling the whole area. There's very little wheat left. It's mostly just dead plants and reeds just growing up, and it's really just destroyed this farmland. And over here, I guess it's possibly been struck by lightning, or there's been some kind of forest fire because there's just flames everywhere burning down the hay bales, burning down the wheat. There's blackstone and charred ground here and there. There's campfires underneath the soil to create ash and smoke rising from the ground. And overall, for these guys here, for these farmers, it's just not a great time. But obviously that is going to happen in some civilizations around your world. Now, in our world, there are all kinds of religions. There's Buddhism, there's Christianity, there's Judaism, there's Islam, there's all kinds of religions, and that is one thing that your world should definitely have. You should have religions all around your world in different areas, different biomes, all kinds of things like that, and they should have places of worship. Now, this one, for example, could be worshipping the sun. Maybe it's some kind of deity, the sun, and you could have banners around your church or your place of worship showcasing the sun or whatever they worship. In the interior, we have like a lectern, we have just an area for ceremonies, we have a carpet going up to it, and we even have a bell right at the top of this spiral staircase. If I can get to the top, yep. We have a bell for calling ceremonies and things like that. And so basically, just add things like churches, add mosques, or even fictional places of worship to your world, because religion is very important in our society, so it should be important in your Minecraft worlds, and it also adds lore as well, which is a very important thing for your worlds. Next up, we have construction and repairs. We have two examples here. The first one was actually one that I used in territory. So I had a wall going around my village in my survival series, and on one half, for most of the wall, it was quite ruined, quite decrepit. Over here we just have cobblestone, just really rough looking grayscale blocks, but right next to it we actually have a tower that's being repaired. It's a lot cleaner, just brick, stone and andesite, just not really rough blocks, it just looks less damaged. We've got scaffolding around the sides repairing up the build, and obviously we have stone bricks, piles of stone over here to show that they're using that to repair it. And over here we have a house that's only just been constructed. We have carpet to show the bricks, they're still going through the bricklaying process. We have crates using the campfires holding up the bricks, which they're clearly using to build the house. And we've also got some scaffolding with some wood that's just being used to make the walls of the house. Once again, it's just a very obvious feature that you should just have every once in a while. While most houses will be complete, there will be places here and there where the houses will need repairs, or the houses will need to be built from scratch. Next up, I've got a combination of suggestions from Lapisareal and Square Mario in my Discord server, which you should totally join if you'd like to have input into any of my series. Please join my Discord so you have all kinds of input. you can basically decide what my future videos are or what they contain. But anyway, to begin with, Lapis Aureal suggested adding farms into your world, which is a fantastic idea. Why? Because people need food. People will need to gather crops and plants for all kinds of purposes. They need to feed their livestock, they need to feed their families, and they also need to make money for themselves. So have different crops and things and fields all around your world where farmers will be growing wheat, they'll be growing potatoes. You could even use things like lilacs to create things like lavender or sunflowers to suggest they're actually harvesting them instead, even though you can't actually harvest them in the game. And over here we have, I guess, a lumber mill, we have a sawmill over here for cutting the wood, we have some chopped down trees, and Square Mary suggested that we use campfires to suggest bundles of wood or storage of wood around the place as if it's been stored. Now obviously when you place campfires, that they're on fire, so you need a shovel in order to put them out, like so. You just simply right click them and it puts them out and it creates a really nice texture. Of course there is a bit of an annoying blue texture, but you do have to live with it. And over here we have a quarry, so we have iron that's being mined and granite and things like that, and obviously people are going to need to collect stone for their buildings. Of course you personally are just going to use farms and strip mines and things in order to gain these resources, but if you're imagining it's some kind of a big city or town, they're obviously going to be getting the stones for their buildings in some other way, so have quarries and things around your world. So where is the waste in your world going to go? Answer: sewers. You're going to need sewers, just sewage systems beneath your world, just transporting water and filth and dirt and sewage around your world, and just have them below houses. You don't actually have to connect them. Obviously they're not going to have a functionality, but have sewers in your world and make sure they lead out into some kind of river or sea, because that's realistically where they're going to lead out. Make sure they're all around your city. You could even implement things like secret organizations or black markets hidden in your sewers. It's a really nice detail to add to your world, and it does create a lot of functionality for the underground beneath your bases. How about having shops and market stalls and workstations around your world? Because people are going to need to make a living, so they're going to be selling things. Some businesses will be big, such as the sawmill and the quarry, but others will be pretty small, like this little market stall that's just selling fruit like apples and berries. And as you can see, we've got the netherwort in baskets and things around the area. This is a very small market stall, but for some people this is going to be their only source of income, so you're going to have these dotted around your world here and there. And also have workstations of people who are possibly carpenters or people who are just doing very quick DIY jobs and things, because imagine if you took every single person away from this world suddenly. They're going to be leaving things around, things like workstations, things like that, just tables, just resources that they've been using, and suddenly they're just gone and they'll be left there. So imagine what the world would be like if everyone just suddenly vanished for a day. Now obviously there are going to be criminals, people who break the law, and these criminals in a medieval scenario need to be punished. So have prisons and have execution areas. Obviously, if you're going for a modern or suburban scenario, you're not going to have execution areas, but you are going to need prisons. However, in this medieval scenario, you are going to have things like hanging areas, you're going to have guillotines, and you're going to have stakes for people to be burnt at, and you could also have other punishments like stocks and things for people to be thrown rotten food at. But obviously we've just got a little medieval town square here, and this is the perfect place for executions to take place. Of course, this would probably be best for larger cities, having whole areas dedicated for it, but you could really have it anywhere. And obviously, for those people who don't even have a small business, they're going to be nomadic. They're going to be roaming around the world, and they're not going to have houses. In fact, here and there you might want to dot around campsites with campfires and cauldrons above it, logs just around the campfire, tents with sleeping bags. I love this design with the slabs around the beds to make sleeping bag designs, and overall it's just a really useful feature just to have nomads or hermits or other homeless people around your world who don't have houses, who are travelling around on foot every single day. And you could also have remnants of these places, so you could have places where the tents have been taken down or the campfires are now unlit and there's just charred ground and soil around there. And also on that note, also have things like custom trees here and there. Obviously we don't have things like pine trees in our world, we have spruce trees which are the closest thing, so create custom trees which just add even more detail, showing there are even more kinds of tree species in your world. And speaking of trees, have things like fallen trees. Going back to natural disasters and things like that, trees are going to have fallen in storms and things like that. And also make sure nature is taking advantage of things. If there's a ruined structure, have leaves overgrown, have it overgrown with leaves. And similar to what GP did on the Afterlife server, have things like bird nests in the most the strangest of places, because to be honest, that's the kind of things you see here. Over here we have an uprooted tree, all the undergrowth has been torn up, and we have a little dinky fox just sat down there, just snoring away. And I think it's a very cute and also a very handy feature. We've also got fungi and mushrooms and things and ferns just overgrowing in this place, suggesting this has been fallen down for quite a long time and nature is taking hold of this new spot for them to grow in. And finally, last but certainly not least, the best way to create lore in your world is just to keep questioning why something is there. Why have you got an end portal? Why have you got an iron farm? Why have you got a nether portal? Why is a shipwreck there? You could just tear them down and pretend they were never there, but at the same time you could also make use of it. Use it to create lore in your world. So in here, perhaps you could have tentacles and the nether just leaking out into the overworld. We have tentacles using the weeping vines, we have fire, we have blackstone and netherrack just seeping into the overworld, suggesting the nether is crawling out and taking over the world. But yeah, this is just another fantastic way of adding lore, details, just creating a nice sense of ambience and making your world feel alive. Anyway, these are just 10 suggestions. Obviously there are going to be things that I've missed, so please feel free to leave any suggestions down below. Anything that you thought, that should have been on this list, or anything you think, that didn't need to be on the list. Let me know down below what you think should have been on this list. Anything you need to add to this discussion. But anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.